The thing that walks at night. I hiked alone through the Blue Ridge stretch of the Appalachian Trail last October. I'd taken a leave of absence from work, needed to clear my head. The fall colors were at their peak, the air crisp, and the trail nearly empty. It was supposed to be peaceful. On my third night, I set up camp off a side trail near an old fire lookout tower. I was completely alone, hadn't seen another soul all day. As I settled into my tent, the forest outside was quiet, too quiet. No insects, no wind, not even the usual distant rustle of deer or small animals. Around 2 a.m., I woke up needing to pee. I unzipped the tent and stepped into the darkness, flashlight in hand. About 10 feet away, something darted between two trees. I froze. It wasn't the movement that unnerved me. It was the way it moved. Too fast, too smooth, like it was gliding. I scanned the woods with my flashlight, heart pounding. Nothing. I told myself it was probably a deer or a coyote and hurried back into the tent. That's when I heard footsteps circling me. They were slow, deliberate, crunching leaves just outside the tent. My flashlight was shaking in my hand. I unzipped the tent and shone it outside. Nothing. Then I heard breathing. Low, rasping, maybe 10 inches from my ear, inside the tent. But there was no one there. I bolted. Barefoot and panicked, I ran for the lookout tower. I didn't stop until I was at the top, looking out over the dark forest. That's when I saw it. A pale figure, standing perfectly still by my tent, its limbs too long, its head slightly tilted like a curious dog. It never moved, just watched. I stayed in that tower until dawn. When I came back down, everything, my gear, my tent, was gone. Vanished. No footprints, no torn fabric, just the flattened grass where it had been. I never went back to retrieve anything. I ran until I hit a ranger station 2 days later, sleeping in short bursts during the day and walking through the night. I still don't know what it was, and I don't care to find out. The Screaming Tree. Back in 2016, my cousin Mark and I did a section hike through a remote part of the Appalachian Trail near the Tennessee-North Carolina border. We were both seasoned hikers, and we'd planned for a week in the woods. No cell service, no civilization, just wilderness. On our second day, we took a detour to an unmarked trail. Mark had read on some obscure hiking forum about a forgotten Civil War-era cemetery deep in the woods. I wasn't thrilled, but he convinced me. We hiked for hours off the main trail until we found it. Just 5 cracked tombstones, barely legible, surrounded by thick underbrush and silence. We decided to camp nearby. That night, the wind started howling, but it wasn't like any wind I'd heard. It had a pitch to it, a human quality, like someone screaming far off in the woods. I asked Mark if he heard it. He nodded, pale. "Let's just stay inside the tent," he said. Around midnight, I woke up to the sound of whispering. Not wind, whispering, right outside the tent. Then, a blood-curdling scream. It was so loud, so guttural, it made my skin crawl. Mark and I shot up, grabbed our knives, and peeked outside with our headlamps. There was nothing, but the air felt wrong, like the pressure had dropped. The trees were swaying wildly, even though there was no wind. Suddenly, the tree next to our tent moaned. I'm not exaggerating. It moaned like a human in agony, a long, wailing sound that vibrated in my chest. We backed away slowly, heart racing. That's when Mark pointed. Something was hanging from the tree. It looked like hair, long, black, tangled hair. Then it dropped. A figure, gaunt, hunched, with hollow eyes, landed softly in the dirt and stared at us. It didn't move. It just watched. We ran. We didn't pack anything. We just sprinted through the woods, tearing through branches and roots, not caring where we were going. Eventually, we found the main trail again. We kept running until dawn, only stopping when we saw the faint outlines of a ranger's shelter. 2 days later, we returned with a guide to retrieve our stuff. There was no cemetery, no old graves, just trees. We were at the right coordinates, the exact GPS Mark had recorded, but it was all gone, like it had never existed. He doesn't talk about it anymore, neither do I. But sometimes when the wind picks up at night, I swear I hear that same scream again, and I never go near the woods in autumn. The thing that watches. 3 years ago, I worked as a freelance wildlife photographer. I took a solo trip deep into the Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia to photograph nocturnal animals. I wasn't inexperienced. I had camped alone many times, but this trip changed the way I think about being alone in the woods. I set up camp near an old fire tower that hadn't been manned in decades. The locals in the nearest town had warned me not to stay near it. One man, an old gas station attendant, told me, "That tower sees things it wasn't meant to." I laughed it off. Appalachia's full of weird legends. I figured it would make for a cool backdrop to my night shots. On my second night, I noticed something strange. My motion sensor camera, set up to capture deer or coyotes, kept triggering, but when I reviewed the footage, there was nothing there. No animals, no people, just static. Then, a flicker, like a shadow, standing still in the distance. I shrugged it off. Equipment glitches happen. Around 3 a.m., I stepped out of the tent to relieve myself and froze. The forest was completely silent. No crickets, no owls, even the wind had stopped. That's when I saw it, at the edge of the clearing. A tall figure, easily over 7 feet, just standing among the trees. I thought maybe it was a bear on its hind legs. But bears don't have glowing white eyes. I ducked back into the tent, zipped it shut, and grabbed my hunting knife. All night I heard soft footsteps circling the tent. Sometimes they stopped right behind me. Other times I heard long, slow breathing, like someone exhaling inches from the canvas. When dawn broke, I emerged slowly, nothing. But I found massive barefoot tracks in the dirt, not human. The toes were too long, too wrong. I decided to leave. As I packed, I realized something that chilled me. I had climbed the fire tower the day before to get sunset shots. I'd left my drone up there, tucked safely at the top. I went back for it. The stairs groaned under my weight, and the forest below felt darker than it had any right to be. As I reached the top, I heard something climbing up behind me, but there was no one there. I grabbed the drone and turned, and that's when I saw it. From the tower's top platform, I looked out over the canopy. There in the treetops, about 100 feet away, a face stared back. Pale, human-shaped, but too symmetrical, too still. It didn't blink. I descended the tower in seconds and ran like hell. I didn't stop until I reached my car parked at a trailhead 10 miles out. I never looked back. 2 days later, when I finally checked the drone footage, I saw it. Frame by frame, as I filmed the sunset the night before. That same face, behind me, watching from the trees, closer than it had any right to be. I still have the footage, but I never show it to